Hello and welcome. I'm Chai Hofalenya and this is Rappler Talk. Senatorial candidate Lorna Kapunan is known for women's rights and family cases she handled, as well as representing famous or notorious clients. Her most controversial client to date is alleged pork barrel scam mastermind Janet Lim Napoles. In October, she filed her certificate of candidacy for senator. Now she runs for the Senate with a slate of presidential candidate Grace Poe and her running mate Senator Cheese Escudero. Senatorial candidate Lorna Kapunan joins us today to talk about the 2016 elections, judicial reform, and the shift from lawyering to politics. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for coming over and joining us for
I'm very
this
happy to
afternoon's
be here.
discussion.
It's like a reunion of sorts because I was here sometime last
Yes,
year
I remember that.
when she whose name cannot be mentioned was top of the news. But that is history.
Yes. You've been a lawyer for decades. Why are you leaving lawyering and jumping into politics?
Well, not quite, because I've been a lawyer for the last 38 years in private
That's a long
practice,
time.
which is quite a long time. And 38 years, you get to see the reality of the law, and it gives you a sense of giving back or to those who have less in life. And there is an idiom, or there is a saying that goes that those who have less in life should have more in law. And I think with 38 years of real courtroom practice and seeing injustice and seeing abuse of power and seeing ignorance of the law, not only in the bar but also in the bench, makes you want to elevate your practice to a higher field, which is public service.
But there's some senators who tell us in confidence that they feel that after so many years in the Senate, it feels like they haven't really done anything because, after all, we already have too many laws. So why legislate some more?
Well, I think the senators who feel that should probably resign from the Senate because being in the Senate requires a commitment to be a student of law, to see where the law works. Of course, there could be laws. There would be many laws, but precisely the function of legislation is to make the law work. If, for instance, there is an ancient law that doesn't work, then it should be repealed. For instance, of recent vintage is our Magna Carta of women, which really codifies all the laws on women. We never had a Bible before. This was separately found in special laws on women, special laws on children. Now, because of legislation, we have a Magna Carta of women.
So
The
is this
debate,
something
yes.
that you want to push and pursue in your senatorial run?
Although I have special concerns, I advocate for special concerns like women and children. And I think my sense here is that the face of poverty in this country is really a woman's face. The face of suffering in this country is a mother who lost a child, who lost a husband in Mindanao, who was a victim of this laglag tanimbala or something.
Yeah.
The face of hunger is a woman's face because it is the mother who has to make meager resources work. Our daily wages here, assuming you are employed, is they don't even call it a living wage. The workers I talk to call it a living wage. Tamang-tama lang yung kinukuha nila araw-araw pang libing.
Yeah.
And that is because what is take-home pay does not only go to the family, it goes to subsidizing payment of foreign debt. It goes to ensuring that private companies get the profit from their investment. Di ba? We are the taxpayers. We as taxpayers, we contribute to all of these costs. which we did not even share in. Okay. LRT, MRT, power, electricity, what are we contributing to? We're contributing, our taxes go to ensuring that the investors get what was promised them, which is profit. So, yes, I am for women's rights, but women's rights are human rights. And number one there, keeping the family whole really is employment, and that is what we should legislate on. How do you ensure employment here? You ensure employment here by creating industries, creating manufacturing. That's how you bring our OFW home. That's how you give jobs to our graduates. That's how you don't have to export human resources, by creating jobs here. Not for the 90%, not for the 10% who control 90% of our population, not for the 37 families who benefit from the system here, but for the 90% who have to share in the 10% of the wealth.
By the way, before you declared your candidacy for the Senate, there were supposed to be overtures from different political parties, but you decided to run with Grace Poe and Cheese Escudero. Why not the Liberal Party, for example, if that was one of your choices?
While I respect the certain individuals in the party, I could not accept the fact that I had to keep silent on DAP. I had to keep silent on PDAF. I had to keep silent on the twerking and the abuse, the use of the commodification of women on stage to gather crowds. I had to keep silent on selective justice. And when people tell me to be silent, I fight.
That's your perception. That's the picture that you, or the image that you project. You're a fighter. You're tough.
Yes.
You're in the law. You're in the courtroom, and you're a very tough litigation lawyer. But people also say that there are very strong similarities with, say, Laila de Lima or even Miriam Santiago. How do you differentiate yourself from these two women?
I think each of us, Senator Miriam, Secretary Laila, and myself, we are three different, unique individuals. And I think it is not fair to compare each of us because we bring our strengths. We have separate strengths. We also have known weaknesses. But
What are your weaknesses?
my known weaknesses. I'm very passionate. I'm very passionate about right and wrong, which can be a blessing, but it is also a weakness because I will not compromise, and I may create enemies.
As a lawyer, how do you decide which cases to take on? Like, as we mentioned earlier, you've had pretty controversial clients like James Yap, Hayden Ko, Rian Ramos, and Janet Napoles, of course. How do you decide this client I will take, this one probably not? Where do you draw the line?
It is true, the book that says there's conventional wisdom in that book that says what you learn in kindergarten. So in kindergarten you learn that it is wrong to steal the sandwich of your seatmate. It is wrong to lie about why you did not do your homework. Correct? It is wrong to be late and make excuses. All of this you learn in. It is wrong to come to the classroom with unclean hands. Okay? All of these are lessons you learned when you were in kindergarten, and as you were growing up in the family, and as you grow up to be a mature member of society. And this strong sense of right and wrong is what guides me into. It is a blessing. I know when it is a case that I want to handle. I know when it is a client I want to protect. I know when it is a principle I want to stand for. People are wrong about Napoles. The misconception is that we handled the Napoles plunder cases. No. We only handled the Napoles kidnapping case.
The illegal detention.
The illegal detention, where she was, to this day, I think, she was wrongly charged with kidnapping, and sadly, we dropped the case because somewhere along the way, I felt that she was not telling the truth.
Earlier then, the report said that there were differences over strategy.
There were differences over strategy because in the kidnapping case, we were very sure that with the evidence that we were going to present and the witnesses who were prepared to tell the truth, that the kidnapping charge would be exposed as a ploy to get her behind bars, no? By these whistleblowers who themselves had formed their own foundations and were plundering, were getting PDAF funds through their own foundations. Whistleblowers had formed their own foundations. But we were never involved in the plunder case. But even having said that, when we figured that she had something to do with the PDAF funds, we were able to convince her that it is best for her to say the truth. To say the truth, execute a deposition where she will name everybody, because the truth will set her free. I mean, it is cliche, but the truth will set her free, and she believed us, and therefore we surrendered her. People are forgetting when they talk about Attorney Kapunan and Napoles, etc. People are forgetting that I surrendered her to the palace, to Malacanang, that we surrendered her to the president because she was going to tell the truth. And when it became evident that she was not, we dropped the case. We dropped her as a client. But I still wish her well.
So that's one measure. Once you feel that your client is not truthful enough, then that's enough basis for you to drop.
Yeah, there are two rules. There are two rules for accepting the client. The first rule is never lie to your lawyer. The client should never lie to your lawyer. The number two rule is when the client lies to the lawyer, look at rule number one. The client should never lie to the lawyer. Because how can you defend a person when you do not know the truth? And why should you defend a person who is keeping things from you? Because the lawyer-client relationship, truthfully, is a relationship of trust and confidence. When a client goes to you and does not tell the truth, or tells you half-truths, or even lies to you, that means they don't trust you. Lawyers, a client should go to a lawyer because they know that the lawyer will give you the best offense or the best defense, because even if you are guilty, you still need good defense.
I just need to ask you this because I guess the association with Napoles will be very strong as you pursue your candidacy. There was also, besides the illegal detention case, there was also a libel case that I don't know what the status is right now. Is it still on? Are you still with that case?
No, we dropped all the cases.
Everything.
Yes.
I see. I'd like to shift to judicial reform.
Yes.
There was again another story where you were quoted as saying that judges can be bought, TROs can be have a price of about 5 million pesos, and the Supreme Court asked you to explain whatever happened to that.
Well, I was asked to explain by the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that nanonood pala ang Supreme Court ng talk show, no? So, I was talking casually to, if I can mention his name, my dear friend Anthony.
Sure.
Taverna. Anthony and I were talking. And sabi ko, wag naman, I'm already tired of Napoles. Talk to me about something else. So sabi niya, let's talk about lawyering. Okay. Sabi ko, I like lawyering. So we were casually talking. And he said, Attorney, bakit ka pa nag-aabogado? Nabibili naman ang mga desisyon. Amin naman, I took the bait and said, yeah. But I was careful to say, according to some sources.
Okay.
Because, for a fact, I don't know about these things because I myself and my law firm, people don't go to us for favor, to get favor from judges or justices, or they go to us for us to win the merits of the case. And when there is need to, the reality out there is when it is known that the judge accepts, then we tell them, well, the reality there is this judge accepts, but we don't do that. You have to do your extra legal options.
How do you fight this? How do you change this? Lawyers they're afraid to speak up against justices because they'll never know whether they will be in court with this particular judge.
Yes.
And it will be a great disadvantage to them.
The step of the Chief Justice Sereno started when she started her office, and started law reform, judicial reform. She was thinking about a whistleblower law.
Okay.
A whistleblower, if not a law, a memorandum circular from the Supreme Court on whistleblowing, so that lawyers who give information to the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court is the highest body. It is also the body that disciplines those that belong to the bar and the bench, to lawyers and judges. So the whistleblower law, which Chief Justice Sereno had thought of, was to encourage lawyers to inform the courts based on evidence or actual personal knowledge of who are the justices, who are the fiscals, who are the judges that actually do not decide the case on the merits. So when I was asked to explain what did I mean by hoodlums in robe, and that in the Court of Appeals it is this much, in the fiscal's office it is this much, I said to the Supreme Court, but before I answered the Supreme Court, I asked the Integrated Bar of the Philippines, I asked the Philippine Bar Association, and I asked the Women Lawyers Circle if they were going to support me on asking the Supreme Court to meet all of us as institutions, so that we can collectively clean up the judiciary in private session.
Yeah.
And they said yes. So I said to the Supreme Court, we are willing to assist in the cleanup of the judiciary if you call all of us bar organizations to the Supreme Court. And that happened.
You met?
No. They set a meeting. They set a meeting because confidentially, and I hope I will not be asked again to explain by the Supreme Court, they had identified 4 justices amongst themselves as targets
of
weeding out from the court, according to sources. According to sources, 4 daw amongst themselves ang gustong tanggalin because notorious.
Yeah.
And
did you confirm that information? Is it common knowledge among lawyers?
Well, yes. So we were waiting for that meeting to happen. The meeting was in fact scheduled. I received an invitation to attend. So did 85 or so select people, select practicing lawyers, people from the academe, people from the bench, etc., etc. There even was a venue, there even was a time. So we were all so excited to say, finally, finally there is concrete action.
When did this happen again? Sorry.
It didn't happen. It was cancelled.
And nothing since then?
And nothing since then.
How do you intend to pick it up and push it if, let's say, you win in the Senate?
Well, we start on a positive note. I think the reason, and this is not only in reference to the justice system.
Yeah.
This is in reference to all government employees or all public servants. You know, in most countries, especially in Asia, the highest paid really are those who are in government service or those who are in public service, even higher than private sector. And that is why the level of corruption or the level of red tape or bureaucracy, because red tape, reason there is so much red tape in our bureaucracy is because that is a means for lagay, for corruption. So But the way to do that is to upgrade the salaries of all government offices, including the judiciary.
Do you really think it will stop corruption?
I think it will
salaries?
start a culture. It will start a culture of, at least, it will start it will awaken, hopefully, the good in people. Because the reason people are tempted to do this is they're not receiving enough. So they will say, and plus, because of the culture of corruption and impunity, if they see the head of the agency make money, and there's some lowly bureaucrat, why should they not make money? When the example they see is what they see. So when you work with a government agency, there are always drawers that are open. Alam mo na kung ano yun, ano? I mean, it is so prevalent that you don't even need to say it in words.
Yeah.
Basta naka-open, pag sinabi na may papel dyan, o ayaw pimirmahan, nakakapal-kapal, pagbukas ka lang ng drawer, alam na. So, it is a culture of corruption, it's a culture of impunity. So, by legislation, if we do upgrade all the salaries of then it is a step towards the right direction.
As a lawyer, have you also felt the frustration of having your cases languish? On average, it takes about 7-10 years for a case.
In fact, I just came from the Sandigan Bayan yesterday. I had a case. This is a political case in Ilocos, and the husband of my client was shot, and there were several witnesses. This was a case filed in 1999. What are we talking about? 15 years? And it's still there. It is still there because, sadly, they say it is part of due process. Going all the way on appeal to the Court of Appeals, to the Supreme Court, and then going back to the Court of Origin, they say it's part of due process. I disagree. I think delay, I think malicious filing of pleadings, I think ignorance of the law of certain people in the bench is not due process. It's not due process. We should really just upgrade the standard of education in the law schools, because it is the law schools that produce lawyers. Upgrade the screening process of our judicial and bar council for choosing judges who are competent, but most of all, filling all the vacancies, creating more courts, and filling all the vacancies. Because, for instance, yung hearing ko kahapon sa Sandigan, ang next hearing na nun is March.
Next year,
2016. Because they say, cannot be December because bear month. Cannot be January because inventory month. Cannot be February because, I don't know, maybe Valentine's month. So the next, because kulang ang courts talaga. So there is a clogging really of the court calendar. In one court in Quezon City, one judge had something like 80 cases.
That's just one judge.
Just one judge. Just calling 80 cases takes all the time of the court.
Another observation, I don't know if you would agree, people would say the Supreme Court is also a problem, because besides the corruption probably that is attributed to some members, it's also become so politicized. Do you agree with that observation?
I agree with that. Principally because my father was a justice of the Supreme Court. And growing up as a young girl, I was also young once. I wasn't born a lawyer, you know. Growing up as a young girl, I would always aspire to be like my father. I wanted to be in the judiciary. And in the judiciary, if you were a judge, you would look to years of service. So, pag judge ka after several years at magaling naman yung trabaho mo, you can be promoted to justice of the Court of Appeals. Then if you're doing well, etc. So there was a career path where seniority and merit was followed. That sadly has been destroyed by all of these political appointees, where justices are appointed from those who have not even seen the inside of a courtroom, from those who have not filed up years of service. So, in fact, I hear this personally from justices of the higher court, who can no longer aspire for a higher position because we do not necessarily follow already the seniority rule. So it has been so politicized that there is a sense of young lawyers na ayaw na nilang mag-apply sa judiciary. Kasi miski na even if you apply in the judiciary for a judicial position as judge, you're not sure if there is upward mobility, considering that there are political appointees that are laterally hired or appointed by the appointing power.
Grace Poe's case, disqualification case, her citizenship case, is pending with the SET, and if there's also expectation that it could go to the Supreme Court. What is your personal take on her case?
I think if it goes to the Supreme Court has had many precedents on this.
Yeah.
And in certain cases that refer to disqualification of candidates who have won for public office, the Supreme Court now says it has now become a political question. It is no longer what they say a judiciable issue, because the people have spoken. The sovereign, even the Philippine Constitution says the sovereign will of the people must be followed. The sovereign will of the people is expressed through the ballot. And if the ballot and the vote, then those who vote choose Grace Poe as president, I am certain, based on a history of unbroken precedents in jurisprudence of the Supreme Court, that the justices of the Supreme Court at that level will say, the people have spoken.
But what if she's disqualified before the year ends?
Even if she's disqualified before the year ends, she has the right to go to the Supreme Court.
And appeal.
And she can be, while that appeal is pending, she can be elected as president. But on the merits, if you're talking about whether she is a natural born citizen or naturalized citizen, whether she is a foundling, whether she has residency, I think the merits augur well for her. A foundling, if she is a foundling, she was found in Haro, Iloilo, and we have international law that says that it is your inherent human right not to be stateless.
Even if the Philippines is not a signatory.
Even if the Philippines is not a signatory to that foundling treaty or something. Our Constitution recognizes that we respect the principles of international law, which is deemed written into the Philippine Constitution.
Is it too much to ask for Filipinos to say, I want my president to be a natural-born citizen? Is that too much to ask?
No, it's not too much to ask. As a matter of fact, it is a requirement of the Constitution. And this has basis in a story I read about President Washington himself when they were considering amendments to the Constitution, the United States Constitution. And he was advised that the term natural-born citizen should be, he was advised by a famous jurist then, who later became appointed to the U.S. Supreme Court, the highest court, that the phrase natural-born should be inserted into the U.S. Constitution when you are choosing, when you are, as a qualification to become president of the U.S. The reason being that a president of the country the people who elect a president of the country must be assured that his loyalty is to his country, not to any other foreign country. Because the President of the United States is also the chief head of the army, the chief of staff of the army. No? And that is why loyalty, if you lead your troops, you better be sure that you are a president whose loyalty is unquestioned. And that's why that is in the U.S. Constitution, which we not only lifted, kasi we are such second-rate copycats, as a client of mine would say. We not only lifted that provision in the U.S. Constitution to apply to presidents, we made it apply to even our vice presidents and even our senators and congressmen.
Some critics, though, would say, and I have to ask you this because you're associated with Grace Po, isn't it a bit awkward to have a first family who has dual citizenship rather than why can't they be Filipino?
I agree with that. I agree with that in that there must be a decision made by the first family to choose Filipino.
Okay.
That's the least that we should expect.
Okay. There's just a few questions from social media here. And again, this is a bit Napoles. This is from Ferdinand Topacio.
Hi, Ferdy. Happy birthday. You did not invite me. I saw you last night. Huh? You're having a birthday on Friday. Okay.
What did the Malacanang staff serve you and Napoles when you came to visit?
Ferdy, wala eh. Wala.
Walang pinakain.
Walang pinakain.
And this is from...
Tsaka hindi naman kami makakain.
This is
So
from...
so funny.
At Ronald Pelenio. I love Attorney Kapunan. If you did continue as counsel of Napoles, can you rate the chances of winning her case?
If I continued as counsel for Napoles, there will not only be 3 in jail, there will probably be about 50.
And this would include
And more.
who?
And this would include not only the opposition, but those associated with the administration. And that is one of the political agenda that I want to pursue, which is a opportunity for all, non-selective justice.
And then this is from Lee Briones. Please ask Attorney Kapunan what she can do to stop the cycle of poverty in our country.
To stop the cycle of poverty in this country, because I read from the papers, just the third quarter SWS survey results, 11 million people have self-rated themselves as poor, and 7.1 million people have rated themselves as hungry, which is a rise of 15.7% from the last survey results. What does this mean? This means that poverty is not an issue that you should gloss over. Many administrations to come out with a passing score keep redefining what poverty is. They keep redefining and lowering the poverty line so that many people are above the poverty line.
Yeah.
But what that really means is poverty is linked up to the lack of sustainable development, the lack of jobs that will create work, that will create money into the economy, that would feed families. That's why each time I speak, I say the root cause of many of our problems of poverty is not poverty. The root cause is lack of opportunity, where you concentrate wealth in a few, where there must be creation of jobs. For instance, the K-12 program. We should review our K-12 program because that is geared towards what? That is geared towards producing English-speaking Filipinos who are ready to be hired by multinationals. Why? Why can't we? If really we're concerned about poverty, why don't we encourage 2 tracks? Why does it have to be a K-12? Why can't we encourage vocational courses for those who are equipped for vocational courses? And those who want to have academic courses can go ahead. But regardless of whether you are a K-12 or non-K-12, the fact of the matter is when you graduate, you have no job opportunity. And that is why capital should remain here. Businesses should be. The APEC is coming.
Yes.
And I read in the papers that the cornerstone of the APEC here is to develop small and medium enterprises. But the APEC, even if it is a covenant, it's a non-binding covenant. We keep saying motherhood. We keep mouthing motherhood statements, not realizing that that really is the key. Our small, medium enterprises, who I understand, account for 90% of businesses here in this country. So what do we do? What do we do to end poverty? Give all of these benefits that we give all the multinationals that come in here. The foreign investments that come in here through PESA, what happens? They get a grace period for payment of taxes. They are able to import duty-free capital equipment. They get reduced taxes if they engaged in pioneer activities, etc., etc., etc. They get a one-stop shop where everything is made out for them, from opening of bank accounts, forming of companies, registering companies with the Securities and Exchange Commission. They get credit assistance. Why is it that we have a government that is friendlier to big business? Why do we have a banking system that is friendlier to big finance?
Do you agree that agrarian reform will solve poverty?
Agrarian reform per se will not solve poverty if there is no credit assistance, if there is no plan for a national irrigation system, if there is no plan for infrastructure. And so typical of our agrarian reform beneficiaries are that those who have received land have already sold their lands because wala namang financial assistance, walang support system. Hindi lang yan. We even have statistics that lie. The first SONA of Pinoy, and I don't blame him. I blame all the idiots that give him false information. The Secretary of Agriculture said, or was it agrarian reform, in his first SONA, that we will, on the first year, be a net exporter of rice.
Didn't happen.
Parang you want to hang that secretary from the highest tree. I mean, a net exporter of rice, I mean, we even have to import rice. And that's our staple food. On top of all of this, Chai, is we must, and I sit in the board of the World Wildlife Fund, and it's very fresh in my mind because I just came from a board meeting the other day. We have to deal with climate change.
Very important.
Very important. For instance, if you're talking about hunger, if you're talking about agriculture, for each increase, for each percentage increase in temperature, and I understand we had the highest temperature in all of our Philippine history in July, and 2015 will be the highest year. It will be the year that we will have the highest, in other words, the hottest climate here. For every percentage increase, you decrease agricultural productivity or your crops. You decrease your crops by 15%. But who is addressing climate change? I mean, what are we doing about climate change except for candidates mouthing, saying, I am for the environment. And environment is not about planting trees. Environment is being ready for climate change. Example, we were talking in the board, WWF board, about a mitigation fund where created for the banking system, where big companies can get credit, can get tax credits, etc., or economic benefits from, for instance, planting trees. Planting trees so that there is a watershed for the farmers, or etc., etc. So there should be a mitigating fund which they can fund. for our fisheries. For instance, 15 billion, 15 billion in our disaster funds is still unspent because you can only get it if you died or you're dying or you have, it's
Huli na.
or huli na, di ba? You're talking about, we just had a typhoon in Central Luzon, 11 billion. 11 billion, and the Central Luzon, if my history serves me right, is our agricultural...
It's the rice granary.
It's our rice granary, di ba?
Yeah.
Sa history natin The rice granary of the Philippines is Central Luzon. What would have we done in the papers yesterday? Our farmers in Pangasinan, in Nueva Ecija, etc., are saying, ni isang kusing, not a single centavo from the Philippines Insurance Corporation, which is supposed to answer for financial assistance to farmers or to fisher folks. Not a single centavo has been released. Why? Do we have a government? Are we so uncaring already? That's why, and that is why I'm with the segue. That's also why I'm with the Grace Po Party, because it styles itself as hindi lang kailangan galing, kailangan ng puso. And in all of this, what we need is a government that cares. When you tell the government, decrease nyo naman yung income tax naming wage earners ng 32%. Anong sagot? Decrease rin natin ang benefits mo, di ba? Kung gusto nyong i-decrease ang taxes ninyo, decrease rin natin ang benefits.
How about women?
Why?
Women. You've been talking about poverty, and we know that women have also been bearing the brunt of it.
Yes.
We always talk about farmers, of course.
Women should be more women should be elected, and more women should be appointed. We need more women in policy.
We're a matriarchal society.
We are a matriarchal society, but we are not in places where we should be. We should be in policy making positions. We should be in elective positions. We should be everywhere. I'm not saying that I don't like men. Of course I like men. But we although they say that we're probably highest in Asia in terms of women empowerment, in the corporate world, there is a move for inclusive businesses, which means that there must be an affirmative action on putting more women in corporate boards, and an affirmative action on putting women in policy-making decisions. No?
How about women who are poor? What kind of support should be provided to them?
Well,
are there adequate laws? Are there new laws that you would push for example?
The Magna Carta of Women, and there was quite a debate on even the title, no? Because Magna Carta for women yan eh. And the women are saying, you don't make our laws for us. So it became Magna Carta of Women. The Magna Carta of Women addresses these issues on the marginalized in rural areas, the marginalized in ancestral lands, our indigenous women, our senior citizens. All of these are addressed in the Magna Carta of Women, except that the Magna Carta of Women is not self-executory as most legislation is. It requires specific government agencies to enact implementing rules and regulations. For instance, when the Magna Carta of Women says banks should give collateral-free loans to marginalized women, especially in the poorest of poor, no? That is a law, but there is no implementing regulation of the Monetary Board, which says that if you are poor, bakit ka hihingan ng collateral? Poor ka nga eh. How can you even start? Or for instance, why does the signature, if you're hiwalay sa asawa mo, why will the bank still require? Or if you are you're not married, You're just hiwalay.
Yeah.
Why will the bank still require the signature of your husband when you are getting a loan from the bank? Or when you're forming a company? Or when you're getting a passport, kailangan pa yung signature ng husband. Eh, hiwalay ka nga eh. Bakit ka required to file a joint income tax statement? Eh, hiwalay ka nga eh, di ba? Because there are no adequate implementing rules and regulations. We had the Women in Nation Building Act, which is one of the laws that I helped draft with Senator Raul Roco, which says women shall have the same opportunities given to men in terms of capacity to act. And that is why women now can be members of social clubs in their own right. We can get passports in our own right. We can form companies in our own right without requiring the signatures of our husbands. But why can that not be implemented? Because the specific government agencies are not enacting rules and regulations. So, to your question of how do we help our poor women, our marginalized women, is to ensure that government agencies enact the enabling regulations. We also have a God budget, incidentally. We have a gender budget that is sometimes the best secret in town. Government agencies have something like 5% of all their budgets to spend on women. They're not spending it.
Okay, just maybe a final question. To sum up, why should we vote for you?
Because when I go around and talk to people, I get a sense of despair. And I get a sense of pare-pareho lang naman yan, sayang naman ang boto ko kung iboboto kita. Di ba? When I tell them, it's like the sweepstakes ticket. Lagi tayong nabibwisit na natatalo tayo sa sweepstakes. Eh, ang tanong ko doon, bakit? Bumili ka ba ng ticket? Lagi tayong nabibwisit na natatalo tayo sa lottery. Eh, bakit? Tumaya ka ba? So I tell people when they say, we want change. We want different faces. We want leaders we can trust. We don't like recycled politicians, artistas, boxers, etc. I tell them, bumili kayo ng ticket. Tumaya kayo. And that for me is what I present. I would like to be seen as a ticket for hope. I do not promise change, but I'd like to revive in our countrymen a sense of hope that they should not give up. 63 years, I'm a senior citizen. I have not given up. I will fight until I reach the ripe old age of 120 years old, even if it takes that long.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us. We've been speaking to senatorial candidate Lorna Kapunan on the 2016 elections, judicial reform, and the shift from lawyering to politics. I'm Chai Hofelenia. Thank you for watching.